Grandstand Rugby League expert Matt Elliott is here to reflect on round 23. And Matt, we've heard Cam Smith, Joey Johns there weighing in on the shoulder charge debate. What do you think? Is the crackdown fair or has it gone too far?
Look, the NRL is spot on, just as Joey Johns said and just as Cam Smith said. But I guess what we've got to do is apply some common sense around this. It is called a shoulder charge, which means someone's charging at you. So they certainly need to have a look at that when we've got to take into account force. And we've also got to take into account players taking protective action to save themselves. Now, the George Tafur one, which we'll probably see in a while, they were going to collide. There was no way that they weren't going to collide. And by George Tafur actually turning himself, he probably prevented injury, and some head knocks. So there just needs to be a little bit of application of common sense. I think at the moment we're in double demerit time, just like the highway patrol, and it's certainly got everyone's attention. So players know they have to adapt their styles.
Now, we're just seeing the George Tafur one there. The Sharks have been touted as a top 4 team, but do you think they were brought back to reality a little bit last night with that loss to the Storm?
Well, they played a really high-quality team that probably played their best football in 6 weeks, I'd say. So the Storm's form was outstanding, particularly defensively. So, look, I can't see the Sharks finishing in the top 4 now. I think that was just about the end of it. There's a little bit of a gap there, and they'd have to pull the Rabbitohs in, who I think have just hit form. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too dismayed if I was a Sharks fan. They came up against a side that nailed everything last night.
Well, what pleased you most about the Storm's efforts?
Well, I think that was a whole team effort. That's the big thing. Everyone talks about their key players, Cam Smith and obviously Cooper Cronk. We do often miss the other quality in their team. But what we saw last night was from 1 to 17, every player contributing right across the park. That makes them a very difficult team to beat.
The Bulldogs have strung a couple of wins in a row now, including that one over the Titans on the weekend. But how much of a blow is the absence of Michael Leisha, who's out for the rest of the season with an ankle injury?
I think it saves Des a really difficult decision. Des has been sort of going through, is it Moses Mbai, is it Reynolds, or is it Hodkinson playing in the halves? One of those guys, and I'd guess Reynolds will go to hooker in the absence of Leisha. So I don't think it's such a bad thing. I think they need those 3 guys. They're definitely in their best 13, and it just, there's a tough decision removed for Des now.
And are the Dogs a team capable of shaking things up in the finals from the bottom half of the 8?
Look, they're really reliant on possession. They've got some players just emerging into form. The Morris boys in particular were outstanding. Eastwood on the weekend and Sam Cassiano was mind-blowing. But what happens with them is if they don't get the right amount of possession, they lose a lot of steam. So they're a team that can make a little bit of an impact for sure in the finals, but it's relying on them playing their best football every week. They can't have a down day.
The Roosters beat the Eels as we expected, but are you seeing enough from the Tricolours to earn that premiership favouritism, which they do have?
Yeah, I am. The last 4 weeks they've played in bursts. That in periods of games, if they play like that over 80 minutes, they'll beat any team in the comp, by a fair margin. They've adapted a new style of footy, a lot more flamboyant than we saw from them 2 years ago when they won the competition. It's working for them in stages of the game, not right across the 80 minutes. They've got to work on a little bit of balance, but their defence is right up where it used to be.
And their next opponent is going to be the Broncos. It's going to be a massive showdown, isn't it? And what are you expecting from the Broncos? They snapped those couple of losses to dust the Dragons. Are they going to really stick it to the Roosters?
Look, I've been someone who's underestimated the Broncos all year. I thought their young halves combination would finally get worn down by the grind of the NRL, and they were new together. But this team just keeps showing up and showing up. It's a massive credit to each player and to their coach. So you underestimate this team at your own peril. They've got a lot of versatility. They've got a lot of mobility and speed right across the park. They're not the biggest pack in the world, but I tell you, there's lots of guys there that know how to win games and big games of footy.
Do you think they'll hang on to take out the minor premiership?
I'm not so sure about that. I can still see the Roosters coming and might edge them out in that department, but they're going to surprise team. They're going to continue to surprise people right through the semi-final series, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them in the grand final.
The defending premiers, the Rabbitohs, got the job done over another top 4 team, the Cowboys. How much of a statement was that for the Rabbits to make in the premiership race?
That's the best they've played since the beginning of the season, in my opinion. you know, it's a massive credit to the coaching staff and the players that they found ways to win while not playing their best footy. You know, they're a very, very tight group of guys and they play very hard for each other, but they haven't been playing well. They played well on the weekend. Everyone's going to have to stand up and take notice, albeit they've lost their hooker for 3 weeks, perhaps.
Well, Matt Elliott, thank you very much as always for all your insights.
Always fun, Amanda.